Yep. Notice is hereby given of a special meeting of the Board of Education of the Town of Westfield in the County of Union, New Jersey at 8:30 a.m. on the morning of Friday, June 25th, 2021. The board meeting will be held via an online platform which can be accessed at the board tab on the district's website. The meeting can also be accessed by phone at 1-415-655-0001, access code 120-299-0386. The purpose of the meeting is to approve personnel items and business items. This is to advise the general public and to instruct that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, entitled the Open Public Meetings Act, the Westfield School Board on Monday, June 21st, 2021, caused to be posted at the office of the Board of Education located at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey, and delivered to the Westfield Leader, the Star Ledger, the Westfield Library, Town Clerk of Westfield, Tap into Westfield, and Patch.com, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of this meeting. Dana, could we have a roll call, please?
Sahar Aziz, Mike Beelan, Brendan Gowigan.
Here.
Rob Garrison.
Here.
Layla Morelli.
Here.
Gretchen Olig. Tara Porto. Sonal Patel.
Here.
Amy Root.
Here. Thank you. Total, could you lead us in the flag salute this morning, please?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you. All right. We'd like to recognize the public for comment on agenda items only. Arvin, you get to be our watcher today. See if anyone is going to type their name and address into the Q&A box for those who have tuned in via WebEx. If you've tuned in by phone, if you press *3, it is the raise your hand function for public comment on agenda items only. Have you seen anyone, Arvin?
Nothing yet. Q&A is up.
Okay. We'll give it a few seconds, but there is another time in the meeting if anyone has a comment to be made at that time. Not seeing anyone, Arvin?
Nothing yet.
Okay. All right. I think we'll go ahead and close public comment for now. As I said, there is another opportunity for the public to comment later in the meeting. And we'll go ahead and get on with the business at hand here today. I would like the board to approve the minutes of the board meeting held on June 15th, 2021, and the private minutes of June 15, 2021. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Sonal. All in favor? Aye. Any abstentions or no's? Looks like all in attendance approved, Dana. All right. Moving on to personnel. I would like the board to consider personnel items 1 through 28, please. Could I have a second? I saw Rob's hand. I think that qualifies, right, Dana?
Yeah.
A second? Okay, great. Thank you. Dr. Dolan, I believe you have at least one you would like to call out for us today.
I do have one to call out today, yes. So I'm very pleased this morning to recommend Ms. Lenova Shaw for the position of Thomas Alva Edison Intermediate School Assistant Principal. Throughout 2 rounds of interviews, Ms. Shaw presented as knowledgeable of curriculum, instructional strategies, and the needs of students and staff. Ms. Shaw holds an undergraduate degree from Penn State University and a master's degree from Fordham University. She has worked as a teacher, a supervisor, and most recently as an assistant principal. She additionally is a content specialist for student teachers in the education program at Rutgers. So there was a committee at Edison that interviewed many candidates, including Ms. Shaw, and we're very pleased. And Dr. Bolton is very happy to recommend that Lenova Shaw be appointed as the assistant principal in Edison School.
All right. Well, that's great. Then I think if there are no comments or questions from board members, we will do a roll call on the personnel agenda items, please.
Mike Beelan,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Rob Garrison,
Yes.
Leila Morelli,
Yes.
Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes. And I believe, Arvin, if you're ready, that we have Lenova here to join us. We hope.
I'm here. I don't know if you all can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay, good. 'Cause I
Welcome.
can't see myself either, so I thought it was just me.
Arvin, if you promote her up to a panelist, we'll be able to see her.
But in the meantime, we can hear her well, so
We-
that
we-
will work too.
Yes.
Okay, well, I just want to say that I am ecstatic and truly humbled to be joining the Westville Public Schools as Edison's new assistant principal. Your commitment to academic excellence, racial literacy, and social emotional learning are what actually attracted me to the district. And after meeting the dynamic leadership team through my interview process, I'm looking forward to continuing to work with them to provide the children and families of Westville with the high quality education that they've come to expect from your school. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Well, thank you. We are thrilled that you will be joining us and can't wait to meet you and put a face with your name. So hopefully we'll see you around over the summertime. So
Absolutely. Thank you so much,
all
Amy.
right, terrific. Looking forward to it. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good to see us. We are applauding. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Did someone have a comment?
I was just saying welcome. Welcome to.
Thank you, Sonal. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'll make a comment as well. I think it's fantastic that we have her as our new assistant superintendent. I know she will do an absolute fantastic job. So I'm really happy.
Is that a slip of the tongue? Let's start her as assistant principal first, if that's okay. You
Thank
said
you, Rob.
Assistant
superintendent.
principal. Did I not say assistant principal?
You said assistant superintendent, but you know,
Oh, sorry.
the sky's the
That's,
limit.
I'm trying to keep concentrating on the road and not look down and at the same time. So assistant principal.
That is an understandable slip of the tongue since you're driving in New Jersey. So, yeah. So we're excited.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Any other comments? No. Okay. All right. Then we will let you go, Lenova, and look forward to meeting you.
Thank you. Same here. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Moving on, I think there's only one policy item, but Brendan, why don't you fill us in?
Yep. I asked the board to approve policy item number 1. Can I have a second? Thank you, Leila. This is to approve or to affirm the superintendent's decision on HIB incidents 21HS01, 21F01, and 21R03 for the reasons they're set forth therein. Dana?
Mike Beelan,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Rob Garrison,
Yes.
Leila Morelli,
Yes.
Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes.
All right. And that's it for policies.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Rob, are you up for introduction of finance?
Yeah, I'll start off. So we have items number 1 through 9. I'll leave the 9th one to Brendan. The only other one that I wanted to call out, and I can't remember which one off the top of my head because my notes are off to the side here, is the documents that are required by the state when it comes to some of the capital projects that we're doing, and they're mostly HVAC, if not all HVAC projects. So the one resolution is just to put forward those documents to the state. And I don't know if Dana wants to add anything or if that's enough. And then Brendan, if you could call out number 9, please.
Yeah, just to note that those are the projects for next summer,
Okay.
not this summer.
Yep. And that's item number 4 that you were referring to, Rob.
Mhm.
And then just to continue with Rob's mention of in item number 9, we want to thank the Jefferson Elementary PTO through a Rotary Club grant for donating $869. The funds will be used to purchase a water harvesting system for the Jefferson Garden.
Okay.
Ready for a vote?
Mhm.
Mike Veland,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Rob Garrison,
Yes.
Layla Morelli,
Yes.
Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes. Great. Okay. Thank you, Rob, for introducing finance at your peril on the road. They can now concentrate on the road and not on finance items. I would like the board to consider the notes for the record. And now is the time for public comment on any item. We'll go ahead and go back to if anyone would like to make a public comment, if you could type your name and address in the Q&A box. If you're joining us via WebEx, or with the *3 raise your hand function if you have called in.
Arvin, can you see Q&A? Because we usually can see
Yes,
it, but I
Q&A.
can't see it. Okay.
Q&A is up, and we have at least 2 at the moment.
Okay.
Miss Bindi, please state your name and address, and you can begin shortly.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, sorry. I can't see or hear you. Hi, my name's Christine Binzer, and I live at 404 West Dudley Ave in Westfield. I just have 3 quick questions. Number 1, when will the Board of Ed meetings be back in person? And just wondering why they aren't already, as I see a lot of other districts in New Jersey that they're having them in person. Number 2, what is the plan for masks in September, and will they be optional? And number 3, I'm hearing a lot about this critical race theory, and I'm wondering if the critical race theory is this in the Westfield's curriculum, and if not, will it be coming September, and how will it be implemented?
And just to clarify, now's the time for public comment. So we'll take all public comment, and if we can address the items at the end of the public comment portion, that's when we'll do it. Okay. So it sounds like maybe that commenter is complete. Is there another, Arvin?
Yes. Mr. Kyle George, please state your name and address, please.
Yeah, Kyle George, 605 Short Hills Court. I have a question hastily prepared about some content that was taught to kindergartners in Lincoln School very recently, at the end of May. There was a book entitled Our Skin, The First Conversation About Race, and it was read to at least 1 kindergarten class at Lincoln School in Westfield. The book was published just March 16th, 2021, so it's doubtful it's on your approved list. It was taught around May 25th, and there's a YouTube video I've sent to the board to watch. That's a reading of the book. There's a lot of things we could talk about here, but a couple of quotes I'd like to quote from the book and bring to the board's attention. The book says, and again, this is taught to kindergartners, quote, "A long time ago, way before you were born, a group of white people made up an idea called race. They sorted people by skin color and said that white people were better, smarter, prettier, and that they deserved more than everybody else," end quote. There's another quote that says, next in the book, that says, quote, "Racism is also the things that people do and the unfair rules that they make about race so that white people get more power and are treated better than everybody else," end quote. Later in the book, it says again that, quote, "Racial categories were invented to advantage white people," end quote. It also contains references to activism, protest, and BLM, which is a political organization. Does the board really think that this was appropriate for 5-year-old children? As a parent of a rising kindergartner, I'm horrified to think that this racist content will be forced upon my innocent 5-year-old when she starts kindergarten just a few months from now. We've always taught our children that it's what's on the inside and one's heart that matters. The great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, quote, "I look to a day when people will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character," end quote. How dare this district teach my children to judge people by the color of their skin? Don't you see what's going on? This type of content is racist. How dare this district imply to impressionable young minds that if they're a certain color, then they're guilty of the sins of all those who were that color before they were conceived, and that only that color is capable of racial or ethnic bias. As a Jew who has experienced anti-Semitism, I'm disgusted. These types of activist teachings seek to divide us, not unite us as Americans. They don't help us find common ground. Get this crap out of the school district. Focus on academics, not activism.
30 seconds.
Westfield schools seem more interested in raising a generation of activists than productive members of society. Did the board review this? So I have a few questions in closing. Did the board review this book? The school officials said it was part of the social justice curriculum. Does the board oversee the books and funding and training of teachers provided by the WEF, an outside organization? Is it the position of the board that racism is exclusive to one color of people, or people of a certain color? And what's the position of every board member, every member of this board on CRT and CRT inspired curriculum? I'm aware of only 2 current board members who've ever opposed CRT
Mr. George,
publicly.
you've reached your time limit, sir.
Thank you.
We have another question from Emily Barker. I believe her display name is EB. She's being unmuted now. Ms. Barker, please state your name and address.
Thank you. My name is Emily Barker. I'm at 434 Longfellow Avenue. I just am reacting to what I'm hearing on the call right now because I had received an email from Amy Root in response to my question about teaching critical race theory in Westfield. And I quote, on Wednesday, June 16th, Amy Root said, "We are not teaching critical race theory in Westfield Public Schools." So I am now appalled at the fact that I was blatantly lied to, that it's starting in kindergarten, and that I was also told that there is a 50-page curriculum for an elective in the high school. That again, as the caller before had said, the parent before had said, it teaches that white people are bad. It teaches division. It teaches everything that goes against what most of us parents want to teach our children, that you are, the most important thing is what kind of person that you are. Now, if this is going on, you as a board are elected to represent the parents of this town. You cannot just implement critical race theory and hide behind the computers while this whole thing is going on. I am really not happy about this, and I do believe that we should have a public forum so that we can discuss how many parents in this district are for or against. We should have a debate about this. This should be discussed so that you, as elected board members, should accurately represent what the parents of this district are looking for in terms of teaching their children. And I will also echo the comments of the first caller, which I have asked several times when these meetings will resume in person, as they have to many, many districts in New Jersey. I'm done.
Thank you, Ms. Barker. Next question is from Rob Bonaccio. He's being unmuted now. Please state your name and address.
Sure. Rob Bonaccio, 528 Forest Ave in Westfield. I very much agree with, but don't need to repeat comments that were made in the time that I have. I do think that issues like this are certainly the reason why we have Board of Ed meetings, why we should have them probably more frequently. I think it would be unfair to assume that every board member is aware of everything that's going on in every class. But when you have meetings like this and you have parents who are thoughtful enough and dedicated enough to wake up at 8:30 in the morning, as you guys are, to talk about these issues and bring them to effect, I think that's why there's a strong positive in having these meetings. Again, I very much support what was said, and I think on one of many potential solutions ends. I know there's a review from last meeting coming up about just district policies on events and speaking. And I would hope that the board would consider adding this issue to that, as I think a lot of these issues go hand in hand. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bernaccio. We have another question from a call-in user. You'll be unmuted shortly. Please state your name and address.
Yeah, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Brian, great. Thanks, Brian. This is Gerald Gleason, 418 Alden Avenue in Westfield, New Jersey. Wanted to follow up actually on things that were already said, but I was planning to ask the question walking in related to information around critical race theory, these types of teachings, which seem to now be starting to be implemented, or at least planned to be implemented within the Westfield School District. My comment is similar to other individuals who've commented is there going to be public forum on this discussion? If so, but if not, who's vetting this criteria? Some of this recent book from kindergarten is relatively new. Has it been vetted by anyone? And of the people either on the board or educators in the district, what is their level of expertise in this area of teaching? In addition to that, if there are things like this that are going to be discussed, is there also going to be fair balance provided to it and screened for political statements, which I also believe are a conflict of interest based on board policy? So again, following up similar comments to some of the other constituents, I think there needs to be much more transparency related to this topic and also getting the public views on it. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another question from Ms. Stephanie Siegel. You may speak now. Please state your name and address.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, Stephanie Siegel, 605 Short Hills Court. I just have a very simple question. This book that was taught to kindergartners very clearly discusses the topics of white supremacy, Black Lives Matter, and certainly is in the arena of what people are referring to when they talk about critical race theory being taught in the classroom. In specific response to parents who brought questions to the school about that book, they were told that this book, these teachings fall within the guidance in accordance of District Policy 2240. I want to know from the board if, in fact, District Policy 2240 does allow for teaching, especially at the kindergarten level, of white supremacy, Black Lives Matter, political propaganda in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't have any more questions at this time.
Okay. I have some thoughts, but I'll see if Dr. Dolan wants to go first.
Sure. Starting from the top, my understanding is that beginning at least for the August 31st meeting, which I believe is the next scheduled meeting, that the board meetings will return to being in person. As for masks in September, that will depend on what the guidance is then, right? Obviously the district will be watching that and will follow what the guidance is from the state and or the federal governments. As for the concerns raised, I'd like to make 2 points about that. One is someone mentioned how parents have different points of view. And first of all, what the district is focused on, has been focused on, is racial literacy, which is different. It's trying to make sure that we really do understand different races, even if we're of one race and we happen to live in a community that doesn't have many representations from some other races. That's been the focus. The teachers have been doing a lot of work on that this year. Two specific things were brought up. One is a high school elective. I'd like to stress that it's an elective. So clearly the parents of the students who are electing to take that course are paying attention to that, and they do think that particular course is important. It's not a course everyone takes. It's one that students elect to take with the guidance of their parents. So parents certainly have a voice in that. And second of all, I think the book that was referenced regarding kindergarten, obviously that needs to be looked into more because a number of questions were raised, and that's fair enough. We can investigate that. But I would like to point out that the parents were aware that that book, they were made aware that that book was going to be read in the class, and they gave permission for their students to hear it. So again, the parents had a say, right? And that is important. And again, with some of the questions that were raised today, I think they should be looked at, and then the information can be brought back both to the board and to the people who've asked the questions. I think that's certainly fair enough. We want to do this right. This is a controversial topic, and as some of the parents mentioned this morning, people do have different points of view on it. That's a fact. It's not an easy topic. So care has to be given going forward to how it's continued to be addressed.
Thank you for clarifying. I just wanted to also state one of the callers referenced the letter that I sent to her. And in that letter, I said that we follow the requirements of the state of New Jersey in terms of what is covered by our curriculum to all students. And the state is not requiring the teaching of critical race theory, which is why it's not being taught throughout the curriculum. I did misstate, Ms. Barker, that there's no reference to it. The elective course that Dr. Dolan mentioned does reference critical race theory. And my understanding from the review that we did in the curriculum committee and the rather lengthy public meetings that we had when we were approving that curriculum back at the end of 2019 is that what is being discussed in that elective class for juniors and seniors at the high school is whether processes and systems in our country have had an impact on racism that is felt by different ethnic groups. I don't believe that it focuses on individual behavior and individual guilt, which I have heard referenced by some people who have concerns about the topic of critical race theory. So I just wanted to clarify that. And Dr. Dolan, my understanding is the same as yours, that our meetings will resume in public on August 31st, as far as we know. So
Amy, if I may, can I make a couple comments?
Please go ahead, Rob. Yes.
So, yeah, I just wanted to, back up what Dr. Dolan said and also make a further comment on the two other meetings. I mean, racial literacy in our schools is of the utmost importance for us to teach our children from a young age. We follow the state guidelines. We take very stringent paths in terms of our curriculum, all of our curriculum. And for those who may be new to these board meetings, every piece of curriculum goes through our curriculum committee, and then the board has 2 meetings to vote on each of these curriculum programs, including the elective that was referenced earlier. We had a tremendous amount of residents come up to those meetings. And just so you know, I stopped driving about 10 minutes ago, so I'm not driving anymore. But I'm still in my car. And when we had those public meetings, there were over 100 speakers, and about, I would say, 95 to 98 of them were in support of the elective class that we chose to put forward. And in the year or so since the class has been taught, we've had no negative comments or remarks or pushback on the district for that elective course. So I just want to make sure that some folks who may not have been around or may not have been part of those discussions in the past, that they knew the history and our process at the same time. Thank you.
Thanks for
I have a follow-up question.
Yes, Mike.
Dr. Dolan mentioned that that book was approved by the parents before it was read to the kindergarteners. Did all of the parents approve the reading of that book and understood what the content was? It just seems some parents were surprised by the content. I'm just trying to understand how it was communicated to them that it was going to be read, because some of the statements that were read are somewhat disturbing. And I haven't read the book, but I'm going to certainly research further into it. And I'm just trying to understand how this was presented to the parents.
Right. So, Mike, as I said before, I think we do have to look into the questions more. But my understanding, I don't have every detail, Mike, but my understanding is the kindergarten parents were notified of it beforehand and they gave permission. That's exactly the extent of what I know regarding that.
Okay, Paul, I see you shaking your head. Do you know more? Could you maybe elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, well, I spoke with someone this morning on the topic, and I think it's an important one. But as Dr. Dolan said, the parents were notified to the extent of permission slips. I'm wondering if hearing about the book out of context might concern people. But for what it's worth, yeah, there were permission slips. There was at least one parent who had an ongoing conversation at that level about it, and those concerns were addressed. I do think it's important for parents to interact and reach out to staff when they have concerns. But I also think it's important when parents outside of that context hear things that they take into account that they may not know the whole picture. Certainly taking the book at face value is fair. So if one of our speakers has seen the book and has a concern about it, that's legitimate, but there is more context. I couldn't get into it too much this morning, but along with this book was a series of oranges, different colors that were opened, and then obviously oranges are the same inside. So, that was really emphasized. Yeah, so that's probably anything else I'd be saying. I'd just be echoing Dr. Dolan.
Right.
Okay, thank you. So, I'm just looking at the comments at the side, and I'm hearing what everyone has to say, and I wanted to say that it's really hard for us to have a discussion as a board about this when we aren't aware we're not aware of what's going on. Like some of the callers said, we're not aware of what's going on in each classroom. And for those of us who are newer or not on the curriculum committee, it's hard to comment on, like, for example, the elective class. I mean, I watched some of the board meetings, and I was but I wasn't there. So I think it's hard to comment on what we don't know. And I would just ask that that type of controversial issue text and be brought through the curriculum committee, or that we be aware of it, so that we can at least have an opinion, have an awareness of what's going on, be able to represent the community, just so that we can actually have a conversation that I feel like is an educated one. So that was my first comment. My second comment was there is nothing saying that critical race theory needs to be taught in the New Jersey schools. Am I correct? Yes?
Right.
Okay,
Yep.
but racial literacy is mandated to be taught in the Jersey schools, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so and I'm not talking to you when I'm saying this, but I think that we have some constituents who are interpreting these as the same thing, and I think that just like how we don't know what's going on in every classroom, they certainly don't know what's going on in every classroom, even the classrooms that their children are in, because you are not in that classroom. I highly doubt that the teachers are saying white people are bad. That was kind of the point of the controversial issues policy, and that was even spun by the community to feel one way versus the other. Our job as a district is to talk about this, talk about racial literacy, to expose our children to both sides of, not both sides, many sides of every debate. And just because your interpretation is that this is saying all white people are bad or white shame does not mean that is what's going on in the classroom. I think that we need to clarify what it is that we are doing in the classroom, so that people aren't taking it and interpreting it according to their political views, both left and right. That's just my 2 cents here. And I would like to see what that permission slip looks like, because you know, you're having 6 different perspectives. So I think we need to have real clarity of what happened there.
Yeah, we'll have further discussion on it. It was a quick conversation this morning.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, the letter making us aware of this arrived after midnight last night. So for us to fully research and figure out exactly who knew what and when would be a little hard to be done before 8:30.
Right, exactly. And that's my point, is that if you want the board to speak to this and give opinions on this, we have to have education on this. That's not to say that we're going to say this shouldn't have been done. I have faith that this was handled the way that it should have been handled, but I can't speak to that if I don't know. And I certainly don't think that saying like, this is your job, board, you should be doing this is going to be helpful, because you knew about it before we did.
And I would just like to add, in reference to your comment, Layla, about people who aren't in the classroom may not understand the full context of the lesson in which this book, the reading of this book, may have been part of a lesson that might have included other, other activities, other kind of guidance from the teacher. And we have talked about at the board table the importance of kind of a curated experience for the kids in a class, to be led by teachers who are trained and have thoughtful materials and lessons and comments to help guide the students in the class. It was one of the topics that came up when we discussed the elective class on power, privilege, and imbalance, is that to have teachers who are interested and trained and prepared for leading discussions with their students is helpful. And that's a key point that's hard to look at a paper agenda or something online and really fully contextualize. But our teachers are highly trained, and they are very motivated, and they are guided by policies that we provide to them. So to assume that by looking at, I now have the book in front of me and I find it alarming, I understand why that might be some people's initial response, but they probably weren't able to sit in on the full lesson that the teacher taught that used that text as a reference. And that's important. And to date, the people that we've heard commenting today, I don't think anyone had a child in that class who had concerns about the entire lesson. They may have a question and a concern about the book itself. So I think it's important to keep that full experience in mind, and to appreciate that there may be more going on than we as board members at this table can appreciate. Any other comments from board members or from Paul? Sorry, Paul, I didn't mean to cut you off.
One
No,
question.
not at all.
Did the curriculum committee review this book?
This book? No.
Or was it on a list of approved books that would be taught in kindergarten?
No, I didn't see it on the ones that we approved
Okay.
at an earlier meeting. No. But again, it sounds like there was an awareness that there was something that could be viewed as a little bit controversial about this book. It's typically not common practice to have permission slips be sent home for an average read along in a kindergarten class. So I think there must have been an awareness about it if parents had made.
Is everything that's read in school pre-approved? I don't think so. I mean, I certainly don't pre-approve the books I read for speech.
No, my understanding is, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, that there's a list of books on the curriculum committee that will be covered during the school year. And I don't know if that's specific to a particular course or to a grade. I just know there's a book listing.
Right. So that's what I'm saying, Mike. Is Paul, is every book that's read in school approved? No, correct?
Right. Well, there's the core texts that are approved. So something that everyone uses, that's considered to some extent part of the curriculum. If it's supplementary, that's under a different policy. It would really not be fair to expect board members to read every single thing that students are exposed to. But at the level of where the books are selected, including this one, there are a number of teachers and typically administrators that look at it and have that conversation. The criteria for it the criteria for the use of books includes diversity, inclusiveness, the books that are associated with racial literacy are certainly going to be focused on on racial issues. Those books at some point were in a long list. I'll double check to see about this one. I do want to look at this particular book more closely. But there are many. I don't expect that board members could be held responsible for reading every single supplementary resource we have. But when something does come up, yeah, then we should all look at it closely. If I can just take another extra second, I'd like to also echo what Layla said about not conflating critical race theory with racial literacy. If we do that, then we're going to have some problems. But we should keep communicating about it. And I'd like to just suggest that, we don't start thinking that, because I know there's a lot of negative media about, critical race theory, that states are banning something that's not even in curricula because it's a great, it's something that makes, so anyways, there's a big difference between critical race theory and teaching racial literacy. Critical race theory is a framework. Racial literacy is something that we are educating ourselves on, our teachers, our parents. We've had forums during the school year. Our teachers have had a professional development on a number of occasions. Our literacy coaches are well versed in it, but as some of those speakers had said, it should be ongoing. It should be transparent conversations. I think we might, so I have some ideas about doing that, doing more of that. And to Mike's point, over the summer, I can meet with especially the elementary folks and talk about a list specific to racial literacy and open it up to parents, maybe even beforehand. There's more we can do. But that's not to say that I think we're doing anything wrong. I think we're doing our best. I think we're getting the training we need. I appreciate all the attention to this that the board has given, and the education that everybody has committed to on the topic. So thanks for giving me a few minutes.
Yeah, and I'll add one more thing. Just so those on the callers, the public on the call, we do have a policy in place, and we do have a process in place that if there is a book, like I sat on one a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, where if there's an issue with a particular book, and in one instance it had to do, I think, with the graphic language in a book, there is a committee that's put together that reviews that goes over maybe some parents' concerns, and then there's determination whether or not the book will remain within that class and that teaching or not. It rarely happens. But we do have a policy in place in case the need is there to review a particular book in a curriculum or that's part of a class.
Hey, Paul, just one final question on the permission slip. Was it just a notification to parents, or was it something that they had to sign and return?
I have to go look at it.
If you could send me a copy, I'd like to see the slip that went to the parents.
I think, Mike, we have a copy of it in our email that you would
Okay,
have
I didn't
received.
see it.
But
Okay.
regarding that, the permission was about eating the orange, whether the child could eat the orange afterwards or not. But then the preceding wording was about, we will be reading this book. It's involved in this context and what it is about in a very high level. So it's, you can take a look at it and see, but it is something we will have to look at further regarding the book in specifically.
Brendan, I
Excellent.
think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just wanted to address our policy end of things. Every year we do approve, as part of our reorganization, every course curriculum and every mandatory reading. We did that on June 1st. The list of books that we approved was 79 pages long of spreadsheet documents. The list of curriculum was 8 pages. So I mean, the information is all out there. This book was not on the list, but if it was just introduced in May, it may not have, at the end of May, it may not have made its way through the full, made its way through the vetting process to get to that list in time for its production. And Rob is right. We do have a policy about parental complaints or community complaints about a textbook. I'm looking for that number right now, but there is a process out there for that. But we do approve the books and the curriculum every single year. And every time there's a purchase of a textbook, that's a separate board action as well.
Mhm. Okay. Any other comments? No? Okay. We have some reading to do over the summer. Good time to do it. I would like the board to approve the following resolution then. Be it resolved that the Board of Education move into private session for the purpose of discussing matters rendered confidential by state and federal law, including negotiations, harassment, intimidation, and bullying incidents. And be it further resolved that any discussion held by the board which need not remain confidential, and the results of the discussion will be made public as soon as practicable. Could I have a second, please? Thank you, Leila. All in favor of going to private session? Looks like that's all of us. Okay, all right. Thank you. We'll end this meeting and meet you on the private link then. Thanks very much.
Bye.